everyone. This is MorphologyAmigo. I am a locum hematology consultant in the NHS. My interests are frontline hematological diagnostics and hematology content creation. With me in HaemBytes is Nihar Desai, a friend and colleague from Mumbai and hemato-oncologist by trade, and also Anas Nasser, who is a biomedical scientist at Guy's and St. Thomas's NHS Trust. We welcome you to HaemBytes. Hope you enjoy. Are you taking
9
it
days?
In 9 days, okay. Have they changed? Because normally there used to be a difference between part 1 and part 2 by about 3-4 weeks. They've kind of changed the whole thing. I think part 1 is this week and 2 weeks after there's part 2. Is that correct?
Yeah, everyone was surprised how early the part 2 was this year, though, this cycle. So I don't know whether that's just this cycle or whether they are changing it. So
Yeah, it's all just very weird and funny. So let's go through a few things. Okay, now let's talk about part 2 first. Part 2 is a 3-day juggernaut. It is designed to test your intelligence from a medical point of view and just your composition as a person over 3 days. As a human being, it is a very difficult test. It's a 3-day stress test because you probably have to carry your microscope to God knows where in the country first. Then you have to just sleep in a bed. And these are important things. You have to sleep in a bed you're not comfortable of. Obviously, you can't sleep because you're stressed out. And then in the morning, you just have to be productive, all singing and dancing, all guns blazing. The first day on morphology, I think the only saving grace is that it starts in the afternoon. There are 10 questions, so there are about 95 minutes in total. 9 minutes per short case. Now, 9 minutes can seem a very small amount of time, and it actually is. So what I would recommend is read the stem. The stem gives you some idea, and it's always more or less related. There are hardly ever any questions in which the stem's pointing north and the blood film's pointing south. It can happen, but normally it doesn't. Don't try to over-report the blood films. Just keep it pertinent to what needs to be said. If you keep giving an esopoikilocytosis and an AML question, it's not going to give you any marks. What's going to give you marks is describing the morphology of the white cells, the cytoplasm, the hour rods, let's say it's LGLs, big voluminous cytoplasm or hairy projections and hairy cell. Those are the things that are going to get you marks. Anything else, you may think they will not, because the college has a marking scheme. And some questions are easier. You get them, you can write, and you probably find it 6 and 7 minutes, you're kind of ready to go on to the next question. Some questions can deliberately test you because you don't get them at first glance. You keep looking at the blood film, you keep going back to the blood tests, and sometimes they give you like 50,000 lines of blood tests, which are deliberately designed to kind of make you, I wouldn't use the word confuse you, but just put you under a lot of stress. It's an artificial exam. It's got no bearing on how good of a hematologist you are in real life. I have had colleagues who didn't pass this exam in the first go, and they're great hematologists. And so please, I know they charge an arm and a leg for this, and it's expensive, and maybe they could possibly improve the exam in a different way, but it is what it is. You need the degree to get onto your substantive careers. The college is just going to be the way it is until it changes in a radical fashion, which I don't see happening. The long cases are a little bit easier. So you have 3 questions. Historically used to be 1 general, 1 acute hemato-oncology, and 1 hemoglobinopathy. The hemoglobinopathy, for some reason, they've omitted in the last 2. So I don't know what the college is thinking. It may make a return this time. Hopefully, yes, let's see. But, and the other thing which I would say to you from a practical point of view in the exam is arrange your slides. In a short case, arrange your slides properly. So I think you have a little bit of time when you change slides. Make sure that your A, B, and C are in the right order, because it's very easy to pick up the next slide in a long case, but then where you should be picking up 2B, you've accidentally picked up 2C. So make sure that you align your slides. So by instinct, you just took one, put on the side, you take the next one, it's the right one. It's a little bit of planning, but it just helps you, capitalize on the maximum time. Everything finishes on day one around 5 o'clock. So you go, I would suggest you rest. Please don't open your books. Please don't do that. I don't think anyone's capable of doing anything after morphology because your brain's basically turned into mashed potatoes. I would rest. I would just make sure you eat, sleep, and get ready for the next day. The next day is day 2, and that's going to be transfusion and hemostasis. I think roughly 8 questions per paper. About 15 minutes, I would say, per question, and that is not really a long time. So the 2 papers are designed to put you under a lot of stress, and your hands will be fatigued. They were fatigued. I mean, I just thought at one point I didn't have a right hand, frankly. It was just, I was just writing at the speed of sound, and you're firing. You look at a stem, you look and you fire. You have time to think, but if you overthink, you're compromising the next question. So I think it's very important to be reasonably regimented. And if you think you can, and there's only so much you can write to answer the question. I know there's a tendency, and we're all very well, well versed in different things, and we want to put in different things, X, Y, and Z. But as long as you've answered the question succinctly, there is no further marks to be gained by adding anything else. That obviously comes with practice. I'm sure you all have practiced your essays and, short question, how to answer questions with your local bosses. But being succinct and punchy with your narrative is important, because on the front of every paper, although most people don't read it, it's written underneath, diet and time and everything, that if you try to add unnecessary things into your clinical narrative that can prolong the patient diagnostics, it will be adversely looked at. So you just have to keep yourself reasonably focused, streamlined, and just going in an incremental fashion. On the third day, there is the Viva. It is stressful. It is, I think, half an hour or 45 minutes. 4 people. One station does coagulation. One station does transfusion and hemostasis, and the other one does general and acute hemato-oncology. Generally, people find the transfusion bit a little tricky because they can start off with any SOP, X, Y, and Z, and then hopefully go into a situation, where they, it's a transfusion reaction, or it's NATE, or it's something else that they want to talk about. Hemostasis, hopefully Jen managed better. I found transfusion, like most other colleagues of mine, a little bit tricky, but they asked me reasonably straightforward questions, so I think I was lucky. General, what did they ask me in my general Viva? They asked me about the latest iron guidelines that had come out at the time. And then I think my acute hemato-oncology Viva was TTP and Burkitt. So as long as you guys, which you have, worked on the shop floor, and you can say sensible things, and don't say, please, please, please do not say outlandish stuff. Because then the examiner starts squinting sideways and like, what do you mean? Can you please explain? And you don't really want to get into those loops. And please, if someone asks you a question, please don't hyper repeat the question. Just think. There is a tendency in all of us, including myself, which I've, hopefully tempered down, that you need to start answering 5 microseconds after the question is finished. Someone gave me a very good piece of advice. And what they said was, it's okay to take a few seconds and say, I'm composing my thoughts, 5 to 10 seconds, and then start answering. You have no mark loss, and they actually appreciate it because they know you're trying to synthesize a reply, trying to kind of match the ending of a question by just start bluttering out the answer. You can do that. If you can do that, if that's your thing, that's absolutely fine. But if you can pause, wait, step back, it'll probably be much better. Hard work is important, luck is important, but make sure you look after yourself in these 2 to 3 days. You need to eat well, sleep well, go on walks, and please do not open any books, because if by the time you're starting your exam and you still need to open a book, then you're clearly not ready for an exit exam. I mean, at the end of it, anyone can do whatever they like because everyone's different. But the exam is all about acumen. Part 1 was all about your knowledge. This is all about acumen, and you all guys have acumen. So I think you hopefully, you should be absolutely fine for your respective exit exams, wherever they are.